Hey folks, welcome back to Game Garbage where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course, stream for fun. Today we're doing an update for the whole payment processor situation on Steam and itch.io and probably some others, with basically someone in Australia or anywhere else in the world potentially having the ability to stop payment processors from processing certain games that they don't like. And so this has gotten messy. I'm not going to necessarily cover everything. But yeah, this all started with basically Visa and Mastercard possibly not processing stuff with Steam and also with other storefronts for certain video games that again that collective shout didn't like. And as we can see real quick, the processor market is super big for Visa and Mastercard. That's dark blue and gray, and as you can see, they have a massive amount even globally. Like it's roughly around 60%, which is insane. And then they also have, we're looking at 87% in the United States. So it's huge. And the bulk of gamers, at least in revenue, is also from the United States. So yeah, if you don't have Visa and MasterCard, you're pretty much screwed, which sucks. So yeah, collective shout, we approached payment processors because Steam did not respond to us, so they initially weren't paying attention and they didn't like that. We also called itch.io to remove those certain types of games, and itch.io made the decision to remove all NSFW content. Later, both Visa and MasterCard have said that they did not pressure storefronts like Steam to do anything. Put simply, we allow all lawful purchases on our network, and at the same time, we require merchants to have appropriate controls to ensure MasterCards cannot be used for unlawful purchases and including illegal content. Again, all of the games that they removed from the storefront, they weren't illegal. They were perfectly legal. And again, it's just because of collective shout has been going after this type of stuff for actually quite a few years. But yeah, so since Steam wasn't paying attention, then they just went after the payment processors. Valve insisted while MasterCard did not discuss anything with the maker of Steam directly, other payment processors like banks communicated the issue to them in their stead. And if you didn't know, Valve actually made a new policy, which I have the feeling they're going to be working on removing, which we're going to see here in a little bit from the White House. And the new policy basically includes internet providers, banks, financial institutions, payment processors, basically anybody that could have a beef with something in the future, right? And Steam and Valve, in my opinion, didn't even really seem to check any of these games, because some of the games have actually been removed that didn't have any of that at all. But again, they're under the horror genre, and so they kind of got flagged somehow. And so there's like over 100 games that just completely vaporized. And that sucks, again, because that's a type of censorship I don't enjoy seeing very much. Maybe these games I personally don't like, but again, just because of personal belief or whatever doesn't mean that these games shouldn't be allowed or shouldn't be out there. And payment processors shouldn't decide anyway. Again, if it's legal, it should be able to be paid for. So to combat some of this, GOG made a bundle of 13 titles that were basically free for like 48 hours. Over 1 million people downloaded the collection, which is, yeah, frick yeah, baby. And then GOG also said that some games just vanished completely. And, not because they broke the law, but because someone decided that they shouldn't exist. And again, we have a group, collective shout, a lobby group of women, if you can even call them that now, over in Australia deciding for the whole world what they should be able to buy and what type of entertainment they should be able to consume, which is just insane. Collective shout has voiced disdain for major games, too, like Detroit Become Human in the past, and also has helped with the removal of Grand Theft Auto 5 in major retailers in Australia. So again, it's not necessarily just one particular type of violence or whatever. I mean, pretty quickly they can go after anything that they deem necessary. And, if they won with this, they may have actually done that. One of the niche storefronts, Zoom, the storefront won't be pulling any games, and its proprietors are looking for an alternative options for payment processors, which I think is great. And also another storefront, Nutaku, has reiterated their commitment to finding other solutions for payment processing if that indeed becomes the case. GOG has also said that if a game is legal, you should be free to buy it. And again, we talked about this in another video, much longer winded than kind of what I was expecting. But if you're interested, it's the state of censorship game, or excuse me, the state of censorship video, and I will link that down below and also try to have that at the end of the screen here. But yeah, with all of this going on, well, the White House got involved and guaranteeing fair banking for all Americans. This will be a little wordy, but hey, just hang with me for a little bit because this will be important because this literally changes the entire landscape for the world. You'll see what I mean in a minute. So financial institutions have engaged in unacceptable practices to restrict law-abiding individuals and businesses access to financial services on the basis of political or religious beliefs or lawful business activities. Lawful business activities, that's what this falls under. You can also take a look at Operation Choke Point if you want. Such practices are incompatible with a free society in principle that the provision of banking services should be based on material, measurable, and justifiable risk. Such practices, when wielded to discriminate against consumers and businesses in credit transactions due to their religion, are also unlawful under the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, which we already have. So this executive order, it is live now, and everything we're going to go over basically has to happen by like the end of January. Within 180 days of the date of this order, each appropriate federal banking regulator shall, to the greatest extent permitted by law, remove the use of reputation risk and equivalent concepts that should result in politicized or unlawful debanking, as well as any other considerations that could be used to engage in such debanking from their guidance documents, manuals, and other materials. So what this means is that this entire situation is that the whole reason Visa and Mastercard and other payment processors were kind of worried about this is about reputation, right? Being paired with something that maybe some other people don't like, and then they decide to boycott. That's basically what Target got to enjoy way back in the day, along with several other businesses. And so, yeah, they kind of want to work away from that. But again, this is saying that they can't remove any reputation risk or equivalent concepts from all of their material. So they can't have policies on it. They can't use it to train for. They can't have it in their manuals, nothing like that. Within 60 days, the SBA will also give notice to all financial institutions to guarantee, with which it guarantees loans under the lending program. So they got to give notice to basically absolutely everybody. And what is the SBA? Just real quick. It's a cabinet-level federal agency fully dedicated to small business. And basically everybody falls under that pretty much, as far as I understand. Within 120 days of this order, there needs to be efforts to identify and reinstate any previous clients of the institution or any of subsidiaries denied service through politicized or unlawful debanking in violation of statutory and regulatory requirement under Section 7A of the Small Business Act. So we have more laws coming into practice that we've already had. Also, within 120 days of this order, identifies all potential clients denied access. Again, like this, potential clients. Because again, Valve's thing was not just necessarily Visa and MasterCard. It was also like other banks, other financial institutions, web browser providers, all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, this is completely illegal. Also, within 180 days, there shall be a comprehensive strategy for further measures to combat this debanking, which I think is great. Also, within 120 days, federal banking regulator shall conduct and review to identify financial institutions subject to its jurisdiction to require and encourage to make sure that they're not engaging with politicized or unlawful debanking again. And, honestly, this is great because this is something that, again, is just reinforcing the laws that we already have out there. And while the First Amendment does not cover purchases in our Declaration or in our Constitution, it does cover the freedom of expression, that principle overall in the First Amendment. And, money is one of the easiest ways to express yourself, right? And that's what this entire executive order is working on doing. And so, yeah, this is every single financial institution in the United States, federal and or small business or private company. It's everybody, and they are not able to use reputation damage as an excuse for stopping people from using their services. Yeah, okay, it needs to be something quantifiable. It needs to be something that, of course, goes against and breaks other laws. It can't be their potential worry for boycotting in the future or making someone else upset. And I think this is great because, again, all of this garbage just completely goes away. And when it does, when the government does use stuff like this, I want to talk about this too. When they do use stuff like this, more than 200 bank accounts. I don't know if some of you remember, but yeah, there was like a trucking blockade basically at the border of the United States and Canada, preventing stuff from coming in. And they were there for actually quite some time. And the Canadian government basically found out who they were and started freezing individual accounts or started freezing company accounts. And it was kind of insane. And yeah, it was more than 200 bank accounts worth nearly 8 million Canadian dollars was actually frozen by the Canadian government. And this took place in Ottawa. There were others too, but this was the really big one. And this was just, a few years ago. And the thing that was kind of nuts is like their bank accounts were frozen after, to anyone else also that like gave these truckers money after their accounts were frozen, at least bigger donations, their accounts were frozen too. Because, yeah, these truckers, they had a crowdfunding campaign so they could actually stay out here because they didn't have access to money because the government froze it. So then the government enacted some stuff, did some loopholes and workarounds to be able to say, hey, we'll just freeze anyone else's account too that's actually donating to these guys. And, yeah, that's disgusting. And so, yeah, they basically provided names of the convoy organizers and owners of the trucks who refused to leave the protest area. And anyone that actually did leave the blockade area, they would basically get their accounts unfrozen within the coming days. So yeah, it was completely a strong-arm tactic. And the government called them illegal blockades. I mean, for Pete's sakes, we do this in the United States. This happens between unions and businesses all the time. Okay, longshoremen and whatever. And regardless of what your opinion is on a union, if you feel like you're being treated unfairly, you are able to protest. And it's this kind of garbage. And while this is just all about video games, right? While it's just about video games, man, it can definitely work into other stuff. And I cover some of this too in my other video, The State of Censorship. And yeah, this stuff is dangerous. This stuff is incredibly dangerous. And what were they protesting? Basically being forced to get the shot. That was it. They didn't want to do that, And again, we have laws here, and so do they in Canada, excuse me, in Canada. They have laws there too, that you have rights over your own body. But, when it doesn't fit their narrative, when it doesn't fit what they want you to do, they will just strong arm whatever tactic they want, and it sucks. And again, for right now, there's been a push with gaming. There's also a push, too, with censoring the internet to a degree and all of this identification stuff. Maybe I'll make a future video on that a little bit later. But I'm thankful, at least here in the States, the White House has put their hand down and be like, no, this is illegal. Here are the laws that we already have and the acts that are already in place so that citizens can have freedom of expression with purchasing and someone else doesn't get to decide for everybody else, including somebody all the way over in Australia for the rest of the world. That's ridiculous. So if you enjoyed the video, folks, you can go always like, sub, all that jazz. Don't forget, too, to also share the content with somebody. That really helps me out as a small channel. Also, too, don't forget our playlist. There's a lot of stuff. And don't forget the State of Censorship video if you're interested. Boy, I get kind of heated in that one because it is frustrating to go over. But it very much pertains to a lot of different types of stuff about censorship. So that's going to be linked in the description below. Also, too, don't forget Twitch. I'm on Twitch. And yeah, when I'm playing video games, I'll chat with you guys. So with that, folks, hopefully you guys are doing well. Boy, we're trying to beat the heat. It's not easy. But yeah, we're trying. Hopefully you guys are too. And with that, folks, we'll see you guys in the next one.